My name is Ethan Nguyen, and
My name is David Stanley.
today is November 20.
November 18th.
Oh, November 18th, 2018, and we are in David Stanley's house in Chantilly, Virginia. Okay, so first question. Tell me about where you grew up and what your childhood was like.
Wow. Well, my dad was in the military, and so we moved around quite a bit. He was in the Marine Corps, served in World War II and Korea wars. I grew up mostly, I was born in New Bern, North Carolina, which is down near Camp Lejeune, which is a military base. Went to Ohio, lived in Ohio for a while. Went to multiple schools. So,
Did you like going to school?
yeah. We moved around quite a bit, so you didn't spend a lot of time. In fact, like in the ninth grade, I was in 3 different high schools in the same year.
Well, I imagine that must be kind of tough.
No, actually, it wasn't. You get used to it.
Tell me about a teacher or other adult that impacted your life while you were growing up.
I had a principal in the 6th grade that I remember. Her name was Miss Moselle. She got me interested in music and kind of mentored me. I got my Boy Scout badge and merit badge and scholarship because of her, and met the requirements for that. And I don't know, she was just always very friendly, very helpful.
Okay.
That's what I remember most.
Has your life been different from what you imagined as a teenager?
Can you repeat that?
Has your life been different from what you imagined as a teenager?
Yes.
How so?
Well, as a teenager, I thought I would go in the Marine Corps and follow my dad, which I did, but not like I expected. The day after I got out of high school, I got my draft notice, and I had to go to Richmond, and they said, well, you can either join something or we'll put you in something. So I joined the Marines. And after being in the Marines, I always thought I would make a career out of it. But after I got there, it's one thing led to another, and I just didn't like it as much. I guess growing up in it and having to deal with it like Paris Island and stuff like that was different than what I expected. I ended up being a hospital administrator for most of my career.
If you could go back and relive your teenage years, would you?
Would I?
Relive your teenage years?
No.
Why not?
It's a hard question. Why not? I think that when my parents died when they were 48, and I was still like 18, 19, 20, something like that. And it's been too many years ago. But I don't know, he was very strict, our dad. And I don't know, I just don't think I'd go back that far.
What jobs have you currently held in the past?
Let's see, hospital administrator. I was head of research and graduate medical education. These were all in different hospitals: Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia Doctors Hospital, Prince George's Hospital in shock trauma. Head of residency programs. There was a what they call a DIG, or DIO, I guess it was. And that means designated institutional official. So I was the on-site person between the American College of Graduate Medical Education and the hospital administration board and medical staff. Ran the ACME committee. Basically had total charge over the residency programs in medicine, surgery, and pediatrics.
Wow. When you were younger, what did you imagine your job would be like if you didn't go into the Marine Corps? Like, did you imagine you would be in hospital administration?
No, I didn't. I thought I would be a musician.
Musician?
I played a trumpet from the time I was about in the 4th grade till the time I graduated from high school. I thought maybe I would play in the Marine band. That didn't work out. And had gotten accepted to another number of colleges when I graduated, but we didn't have the money to go. Back then they didn't have scholarships like they do today. And one of them was the Shenandoah Conservatory of Music. So I thought I would make a career out of music.
Okay. If you could choose any career, what would you pick and why?
Well, I think I would like to be an oceanographer, scientist. I just find it's interesting, problem solving. That ability to manage and interact with people has a certain set of requirements for it. And I think I'd be good at it. I always liked a certified scuba diver from NAUI, National Association of Instructors for that. And I don't know, I was born near the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and so I was always at the beach a lot. Just found it interesting.
At Chantilly High School, they have an oceanography class now.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Right. They didn't have any of those classes when I was growing up.
What lessons has working taught you?
To be flexible, honest, straightforward. You speak your mind, and probably more importantly, to be able to listen to people rather than just have a fixed reply to something, especially when you're dealing with 300 or 400 doctors.
Yeah.
They tend to be, it's like herding cats. You can't do it. So you have to be diplomatic, I guess.
What was it like working in the medical field or like hospital administration?
I loved it.
Loved it?
Yeah. My aunt probably started me, she was like a admitting supervisor at a hospital when I was growing up, and we'd visit her in the summer. And she'd take me to the hospital with her. And that's where I first got introduced to it. But then I had been through several jobs trying to go to college part-time after I got out of the Marine Corps. And one of the places I interviewed at was a hospital called Northern Virginia Doctors Hospital. I worked there for like 12, 13 years, almost 14 years. But moved up through the ranks, got my BS in hospital administration, got an MBA, and from there went to children's. And I like dealing with people, helping people. So it wasn't so much medical, it was more management for me.
Mm-hmm. So you managed the residency program?
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
Well, we had a lot of foreign residents because we were not affiliated with a university. It was a hospital residency program, except for children's. It was interesting. You have different cultures, different eating requirements. The ACGME, which governs all the residency programs in the United States, has a very set, ever-changing list of rules that you have to go by. You have to be able to have a certain space. They have to have a certain number of courses. They have to be able to pass a certain number of tests within the first try. But you get the top people from other countries, and I think that was probably more interesting to see the interaction of those people with their like residents, and I like problem solving, and there were a lot of problems that you had to deal with. Let's see, what else was I going to tell you? I think that was the most interesting, and you're dealing with doctors that had been in practice. I mean, part of it wasn't just the residency program. You had to hire and form committees, search committees for chairmen of the departments, and hire them, do contracting work with them, set their salaries. So it was a challenging job. I like that. You just don't like to sit around and babysit something. I don't anyway.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of going into the medical field myself when I grow up. Like, I want to be a radiologist.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give me?
Let's see. To be a radiologist, a lot of radiology has changed quite a bit over the last.
With new technology.
We had radiologists that would actually even work from home. A lot of the stuff shows up on screens now. We call them screens. I'm sure they're like tubes or iPads, but they can actually do them from anywhere and read them. Doctors, I mean MDs, not just radiologists, still read them in some cases. But do you have an idea of what field of radiology?
Not
CAT
really.
scans. You need to think about that.
Yeah.
To be a radiologist, you probably have to go to a basic residency program, 3 years. I didn't do a radiology program, but unless you're going into really a high, like surgery or some specialty, just a basic 3-year medical residency program is something for you, and there's numbers of those. I mean, some are with universities. You can get in those are probably the best. A lot of private hospitals have residency programs because they choose to. The doctors there actually like having the residents and instructing them. Surgery residency program, for example, is 5 years. And if you want to go into some subspecialty, then it's a fellowship after that. But you put in a lot of years in education. You got to be willing to do that. I had one friend of mine that worked in the business office when I was in the business office with me. He wanted to be a gynecologist. Well, he couldn't qualify to get into gynecology schools here in the United States, so he went to Mexico, went to medical school there. Came back to the United States, did the requirements for getting certified for gynecology here, and has his own practice now. So there are more ways to do it. Some people start out in medical schools. We had some from out of the United States that the medical students would come. They can't do a lot with the patients, but from there, they maybe got some expertise of what residency programs were.
Mm-hmm.
You could go on the website and look up residencies in radiology. It'd be a good place to start. Just see what their requirements are.
Okay, let's move on to a new topic. Were you ever married?
Yes, twice.
Tell me about the love of your life.
Love of my life was probably not somebody I was married to, but it was probably in high school, or right after I got out of high school for a couple of years, and didn't work out for some reason. But then my second marriage was good. I was married for 30 years, and she passed away on Christmas Day about 2010.
I'm sorry.
So she was my
How did you meet your second wife?
My second wife met. She worked in the emergency room at the hospital I worked at. And after my first divorce, I was going to go on a trip, whitewater rafting, with this other guy who worked in the lab. And so we decided we'd take a CPR course just in case we needed it. And she was one of the people down there doing some of the instructions. She later left the hospitals and went to work in correctional healthcare nursing.
Mm-hmm.
She was a lieutenant for Fairfax County Sheriff's Department. Went through the training program there. That's her plaque up on the wall over there.
Oh, wow.
She retired from there not too long before she passed away.
Okay, describe your first date with her.
Well, it was a double date. We went to, I think, the flagship down in Washington, D.C., and they had a bar and dance area. So my friend who was in the lab, he took his girlfriend, and I asked her to go. And they thought they were going to eat dinner at the flagship. And we were just there to drink and listen to the music and dance. And they let us know that they wanted something to eat, so we got it. But it was a fun date.
Describe your marriage proposal to her.
Well, we lived together. I had a house that was provided by the hospital that was right next to the hospital. She worked there and I worked there. And we lived together for about a year. And after a while, you just decide it's time to get married. Her dad was fairly old, not good health. But we loved each other. Seemed like the right thing to do, and it was. So I proposed. I mean, it wasn't anything spectacular. So, maybe it's time to get married. So, I agree.
Sounds like my dad's proposal to my mom.
Yeah, none of these things you see on TV today.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, so tell me about your wedding day. Did it go as you imagined?
yeah. We had kind of mostly people from the hospital there. She had somebody from the emergency room as her bridesmaid. And I had my friend from the lab. He was like the best man. But the reception was at her parents' house. And that was nice. All the people came up. And, it was kind of traditional reception. Not much drinking, though. They were not into that. We had cake and there was some champagne and stuff. That was
Just
about it.
pretty average wedding.
Yeah.
So if someone,
Honeymoon. We went to honeymoon the next day.
where'd you guys go?
Went to the Outer Banks in North Carolina.
I imagine if someone got hurt or something happened at that wedding, there's all those doctors and nurses.
Yeah. Nobody got hurt.
So what have you learned from your wife?
How to say yes, dear. Sometimes it's the best way to avoid conflict. But she liked working nights most of the time. She worked nights in the emergency room at the hospital, and she liked working nights when she was at the sheriff's department. Less supervision, and she actually got to be a supervisor, so she liked that. So I worked during the days and kind of on weekends, because being residency programs in hospitals are open 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Wow.
Not that I worked that much, but it worked a lot. So I told her that's the only reason we were probably married for 30 years. We hardly ever saw each other.
Tell me about your happiest moments together.
Going on vacations to the beach. I guess we always had good times down there. They went seashell collecting. It was just a fun time.
Tell me about when you found out you were going to be a father.
It was a surprise. We weren't really, I didn't know we were really trying. I mean, there was never really any protection being used. But I guess God shined on us and we ended up having a daughter. That's Joy.
Were you excited?
Yes.
Share some important lessons you've learned in your life.
Oh, jeez. As you get older, you learn more. Yes, the important lesson is you never stop learning. It changes with age. Always be kind. Try to help people if you can. Be sympathetic to people. You're always trying to help people move up, I guess. Especially when you've got employees working for you, trying to mentor them. And, I think I did that in my career. Get along with people. Try to avoid conflict.
Okay, so tell me how you would like people to remember you.
Just as being a good person, a good father.
Okay, Mr. Stanley, that just about wraps it up.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, that's a hard question. Thank you.